What is the evidence that Christianity is true? What is the evidence that Jesus is who he claimed to be? How do I know this is true? So if Jesus claimed to be the Son of God, as I mentioned earlier, he did clearly, how do I know he proved it? By returning from the dead. What is the evidence historically that Jesus really returned from the dead? Because if that is true, then he is who he claimed to be, and I ought to put my chips in that pot, right? I was an atheist. I lived a very immoral, drunken, profane, narcissistic, self-destructive, in many ways kind of life. My wife comes up to me one day and gives me the worst news any atheist husband could get. She said, I've decided to become a Christian. So I thought, I'm just going to walk out. But then I thought, wait a minute. What if I could rescue her from this cult that she's gotten involved in? How would I do that? How would I do that? Oh, I know. All I got to do is disprove the resurrection of Jesus. And I can disprove the resurrection. Dead people don't come back to life. That just doesn't happen. And I looked at the data concerning the resurrection. It is fascinating. The first E stands for execution, that Jesus was truly dead after being crucified. Okay. There is no record anywhere of anyone ever surviving a full Roman crucifixion. This is so well established of an historical fact, you could get laughed out of a major academic institution if you go in and claim he somehow survived the crucifixion. Second E, early accounts. In other words, we have early reports that come very quickly after the crucifixion that he rose from the dead. We have preserved for us a creed. Then it has the specific names of individuals and groups of people who encountered the resurrected Jesus, including 500 people at once. Third E stands for empty. We have an empty tomb. Even the enemies of Jesus admitted the tomb was empty. Well, everybody's conceding the tomb is empty. That's not the issue of history. It is the issue of history really is how did it get empty? Then finally, the fourth E stands for the word eyewitnesses. There are 9 ancient sources inside and outside the New Testament confirming and corroborating the conviction of the disciples that they encountered the risen Jesus. That is an avalanche of historical data. And so it was based on that kind of evidence that I sat as an atheist and said, wait a minute, if I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to follow the evidence wherever it points, which is what I was always taught to do, then I have to conclude that Jesus didn't just claim to be God. He backed up that claim by returning from the dead.
It's incredible to see how an ex-atheist who was trying to convince his wife that no, Jesus didn't rise from the dead. This is all a joke. This is all fairy tales. And he ended up finding that there was so much evidence that you would almost be silly to think of anything other than Jesus actually resurrecting. It's incredibly fascinating. I think that anybody should have any form of healthy skepticism, and you should pursue it.